I'm Elisa Mortensen, and this is Undo Redo. Let's take a look at all the things that happen in life that we would like to undo and have a chance to redo. Hey there, friends. To everybody I know and those that I don't know yet, I hope all of you are making some memories over the summer with the ones you love the very most. I've been growing my business this summer and am enjoying time with my last child being at home. Also, I'm visiting my other kids who've moved away. Before I get too far, I've scheduled a free class on my calendar for you on August 19th at 11 a.m. And it's about parenting your child the best with connection. And this goes with your partner too. Like if you don't have kids, just come for the information you're going to get on how to deal with your partner, because I've been hearing people tell a lot of stories recently, and I see a big need out there for kids and home life. I hear how partners aren't agreeing and how they want to parent and how they want their house rules to be, what rules to enforce, what to allow, how to motivate their kids and get them to be responsible, and so on and so on. So I wanted to help you by giving you the best. And when I say the best, I mean the most transformative that I have found, effective, simple, and long-lasting fix for all of it in one class. It might go over an hour, you guys, just to warn you, but what we think the problem needs is typically the exact opposite of what so many of us tend to do in these family situations. Because we have a really loud fear brain. It wants us to yell, cancel every activity, send everybody to their rooms so we can just have a quiet moment and not have to deal with it or address anything. So make sure you're either on my email list or go DM me on social media to get the link. And DM me the word link or reply, whichever one you're planning on. So, and I hope you can make it live to type in your questions and to get answers for your situation. But be sure to catch the replay, because every problem that everybody else has probably is very similar to what you have going on in your home too. And I have a monthly membership that guides you through the problems that come up each month for you in your life and how to solve them. And certainly difficulties are always going to come. So don't fool yourself thinking that everything's just going to go smoothly and everybody's going to be great, because there's always going to be something coming up. And even if you're not in the thick of like bad kid behavior, you just need inner work, because we have to meet those personal goals that we have been putting off and how we're not showing up for ourselves. So win-win for you and them. You are mom or dad and you're a boss at it. You are husband or wife, and let's show you how to be a boss at your situation. And I have programs. Just go check out all my stuff. There's lots going on and it's so fun and it's getting great results, you guys. Everybody's so excited about it. But as for this episode, I have wanted to talk to you about this for a while. It's something that I know has changed me a lot in my life since I have learned it. And specifically in the area of how I show up my family, it has up-leveled me. And I'm not met with as much confusion or energy draining, time wasting dilemmas anymore. So I want to teach it to you, because I've learned how to make decisions ahead of time. Now, I'm not 100% at it. I'm not perfect at it, but it's really improved my life a little bit, what I have been able to grasp about it. And we're always learning, right? So join me on this journey. But the first thing you need to know about making decisions ahead of time is who you are. Because who you are and who you see yourself as is what we base a lot of our decisions on. If you see yourself as someone who, say, takes it as it comes, that sounds nice until you pair that with, well, because I take it as it comes, I don't really commit to doing anything. Well, you leave yourself a loophole to get out of it all the time, right? You'll likely be put into situations that need a decision, and going with the flow to that kind of extreme can set you up to be not able to pick one decision at all. So it just defaults to whatever decision is made for you at that point. Also, you miss out on some of life's greatest opportunities if you aren't prepared and can't face difficult, pivotal times, because they happen at any moment throughout your life. People who feel lost for what to do often only because they haven't been using their decision-making muscles. So they aren't strong enough at the time when they have to make like heavy lifting decisions. You may recognize some of these thoughts that have pushback to the things that pop up unexpectedly for you. These thoughts are like, I'll just call it the child brain. Nope, I'm not doing that today. Thanks. No, not me. No way. I am not having this. More things happen. If one more thing happens, I'm going to scream, or I am so done. I just can't take it. Now this, it's impossible. How can I do this? How is this even happening right now? I'm not okay with this. You'll do exactly what you thought, even without realizing it. If you look at it closely, you're setting yourself up to be taken down. Can you hear it? Can you hear how those thoughts are predicting you going down by what you said? It's like you've seen the future and you know how it's going to go in your mind, and that's got to be it. You're so smart. You knew it, right? You're going to be taken down. See, I was right. And you looked for it and you proved it true. That's the way the mind works. It's like when bikers are hitting every rock and root on a trail because they look at it and they knew it could be a problem. I knew I'd hit that. It's coming up. And a while back, a friend and I were complaining about hitting everything we saw. I like to mountain bike, but everything we saw coming, every loose rock, every rut, every knot. And we kept mentioning it and discussing how frustrating it was not to have just this smooth, buffed out trail, and how confusing it was. If you see it and you know it's there and you see it coming and there's an empty space next to it, why can't you avoid it? Why do you still hit that big rock? Duh, go to the side of it. It's known as fixation. It's actually a thing. My thought about it in that moment was, this is so annoying. How could this really be a thing? I did look it up. And fixation, it's when I was putting this episode outline together, it said that when an individual becomes so focused on an observed object, okay, so you're looking at this object, this thing, it can be a target or some sort of hazard or problem. When you're so fixated on it, you inadvertently increase your risk of colliding with it and having it happen. And it's so crazy because we were wondering what would happen if we just reversed what we were doing. So we're biking and we're talking about this, we're hitting everything, you guys. And we set out to try it. Like, okay, fine, look to the side of it. Let's just do this. And it was almost like this joke, not really believing it was a real thing, but let's look where we want to go instead, is what it ended up being. And the conversation became about the new line, what we picked, and where we most wanted to hit. And then everything changed. We were laughing ridiculously hard about it and loving the rest of our ride that day, and that was not a coincidence. That taught me something, and I've learned to set my intention when I ride on how well I ride, how practiced I am now for so many years riding, and how much I love choosing that clear line and having all my attention go to the space in between all of the objects. I used to tell myself this story. Oh, I'm the one crash, we go on a group and there's one girl that's got to do this. And I was the one girl that crashed once every single time. Like, okay, Lisa's going to crash at least once. We can plan on that. And that was my story too. And I've always hit the big rocks that were a problem. And I always was afraid of hitting the big rocks that were a problem. And so it became but I've stopped wrecking each time I go. And if you see yourself as someone who's committed to doing something, that's who you show up as. And it's the craziest thing because I don't want to crash. It wasn't that's my talent. It's just that I proved it true. So when you're committed to doing some hard things in life, whenever those hard things come, you've already got that belief running through your mind that you're going to rise to the occasion, and you'll have a backup thought like, it's not an option not to. I always got it. Whatever it has been, I always got it. So number one, who you believe you are matters. And what you believe you do and how you believe you respond matters when it comes down to it, right? That's number one. The second thing to know about deciding ahead of time is what kind of power is within it. And this is important because here's a few examples, for instance, like when you decide that staying connected and loving and supporting someone is more important than the fight or to control them to fix their behavior immediately. So now fast forward, when that person does or says something out of their own underlying issues or lack of their self-control, you can remain calm, knowing that it's their agency at work and that you don't have to let it faze you. That's a decision ahead of time. And there's power in that. Their inner battle's raging. It's heavy. And you don't have the need to jump on their back about anything they're doing and add to their burden. They need someone by their side. You can just see it so clearly when you decide ahead of time. You can maintain a consistent love and support for what they're going through. You can have understanding for how they suffer. And you decided ahead of time that the bigger picture was in mind, and that's what you're going to do. And it relieves you from having to make a decision in that moment. Because in that moment, when they're responding poorly to life or situations, you're more weak. You're more triggered because you're actually in it. And we can't see our problems when we're in it. We're not going to approve of what's happening when we're in the moment. And we're not going to feel like, oh, this is okay, because it's not going to be okay at the moment. But when you decide beforehand, the decision's already done. There's no decisions to be made. Now you just stick to the plan. But sticking to the plan is hard, you guys. It's not as hard as the decision because you've already decided, but it's hard to stick through it. It's a lot of work, but it is how you rewire your brain for greater good and better responses. Maybe you can draw strength from your higher power, which is what I do, so I don't feel so alone. Maybe your plan can include, I'm going to have a follow-up conversation later that day or the next day when everything's calmed down and we're both thinking clearly, when we're both in our like adult brain. And I'll just ask questions and get more understanding for how they experienced that moment and tell them how you experienced that moment, and win-win, because then we both understand each other better. Let's do another example. Let's do one with eating healthy food and working out, because that's so easy for everyone to relate to. But you decided that working out for 30 minutes a day or 3 times a week or something and not eating sugar is more important than sleeping in and satisfying your sweet tooth 3 or 4 times a day. I used to do like 6 or 7 times a day, but now you've decided ahead of time in your better brain, okay, that that's good for you. And then your lazy brain, your child toddler brain wants to come in, and those two brains like to argue a lot. One of them knows what's best for you, and the other one is just afraid to do anything that takes any energy because they're so lazy and they don't want to do it because that just sounds too hard. So we got a parent brain and child brain, and the parent brain decided and loves you and wants you to change, and the child brain throws fits to try to get out of doing the things that the parent brain tells it all the time. So you actually rebel against yourself, basically. So you can expect that. That's just the way the human brain works, but be aware of it. Keep letting the adult brain be in charge and tell the child brain to stop being such drama and stick with the plan, okay? So when your alarm goes off that morning to work out, right, there's the moment of truth. It's not about the discipline, motivation, grit, and willpower, you guys. It's about the opposite. It takes releasing that pressure off yourself and just going and doing what you said you would, just because you said you would. You are a woman of your word or a man of your word. This part's imperative because it will honor you to just go do it. Just be like, yes, ma'am. I will honor that part of me that knows what I'm capable of doing. And then when you feel that tantrum coming on from that child inside, it's okay. You knew it would come. I told you you're not going to get a cookie for dinner. But it's used to getting its way. So just coach yourself a bit. Take a little bit, like take a deep breath and say, it's just because I've given into it so much. I'm much more practiced at giving myself what I want in the moment than giving myself what I really want. Of course, I'm going to throw a fit. There's going to be tantrums. My brain's just going to bring up a lot of emotion. Now you're going to feel all the emotion and resistance. But it's important to reconcile with that relationship you've had inside yourself against yourself. You're the one with the two brains. Just imagine for a moment what it would be like if every time you committed to do something, you knew you would go do it. This is the future talking. This is deciding ahead of time. Imagine you're that person that says what they're going to do and then they go do it. You're at a place where you trust yourself. Do that. Do that for your future and go through the misery in the moment of not wanting to, because that's just part of that journey. Decide what you really want. Make a plan for it, and then just plan on fighting yourself for it in the moment and keep doing it. The toddler brain will become more quiet as you don't give into it and don't give it what it wants. And when you do pick a plan and you decide what you really want, don't be super strict with yourself. Don't go to any extremes where the pendulum's going to swing all the way to one side, because it typically just goes all the way back on you. Don't be too lenient. Don't be too strict. Pick kind of a Goldilocks zone that you know you're capable of showing up for and that you can focus on showing up for. Because you can tweak it and make it harder from there later. Also, you'll feel better when you aren't judging what you did as right or wrong. Like, oh, this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. Don't make it moral. It's just like how can you get your brain slowly with little baby steps onto this idea of deciding ahead of time and then showing up for it? We feel what we feel. It just adds to all the misery if you make a bunch of stories around it too, because our stories are 99% inaccurate anyways. Lots of little decisions make up the big ones, like the food you eat starts as an idea in your head or a craving before you go buy it, before you go to the restaurant. You know you're going to a restaurant, oh, I'll pick something healthy. Well, they only serve certain things. Before you walk in the door, you've already decided. So all those little decisions add up. The clothes and shoes that need to be put on before you go to on a run, or the bike you need to grab, or the drive you need to take to get to the gym, to step onto the equipment. Little decisions lead to the big ones too. So don't underestimate the power of all those little decisions. And with relationships, you decide ahead of time what you're capable of responding like, when to excuse yourself, how long you're going to take to cool down, and then how you're going to know when you can access your adult brain again, because the toddler brain takes over in any quarrel we have. And when the time comes, you show up like you said you would, and you don't make any excuses. Like, oh, this is just too much. Well, now you're going to confirm that that is too much. This is how you become a better version of yourself. It's just with some not grit, motivation, discipline. It's more like, I'm going to let go and I'm just going to go show up. That's how you become. You let all the drama go and you just become. And this is your agency at work. Deciding ahead of time is a superpower. And I know I say superpower a lot when it comes to agency, but you'll build confidence and you'll be able to rely on yourself, which is much better than relying on anyone else. Trust me. No one's coming to save you and get you out of anything. When you give in to the toddler and you get your way, you don't really get what you wanted. And you don't really see what you're truly capable of doing. So go decide ahead of time, you guys. Now you have lots of use for deciding ahead of time, and you can teach your kids this. You can talk about it to your partners and spouses and friends, because there's a lot of power found in it. And if you've thought of anybody while you're listening to this, send it to them, because we could all use reminders on how we bring ourselves to show up. How do we get ourselves to do the stuff we're doing that we really want to do, and quit making excuses and getting out of it? Send it to someone that you thought of, and go get in my August 19th class. Make sure I have your emails so you can get the link or the replay. I'll just talk to you again next week on the podcast or on one of my calls and classes coming up. Thanks. Bye.